Hello, 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 everyone. I am Rosalind Brown of Your Wealth Guidance, where we help Black women create their financial independence map and identify the tools for success so you can live life on your own terms. Thank you so much for joining us again for another Great Money Monday. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future information along your journey. And today we have another great speaker. And I'm super excited about this speaker. For one, because I know a lot of people always hear in order to build wealth, in order to be wealthy, in order to be rich, you're going to have to be a business owner. Don't just go out and start and create some LLC just because somebody told you so. You want to make sure you're doing it the right way. And so we have Rasheeda Creighton, an experienced corporate executive turned entrepreneur. She has always taken the road less traveled, and during her 15-year corporate career at a Fortune 100 company, she leveraged her law degree to move from negotiating technology contracts to overseeing significant business relationships with large corporations and small businesses alike. In 2018, Rasheeda used her experience to help design, develop, launch, and ultimately oversee 1770 Innovation Center, a first of its kind community space in Richmond, Virginia, designed to support community organizations, entrepreneurs in the Richmond area. And so through this work, she learned and honed in on her expertise in understanding the impact space design can have on operations and further developed a passion for using her skills to support community focused organizations and entrepreneurs. In 2020, she harnessed her skills and passions into a business venture that all work towards a singular path: creating and holding spaces that connect people, particular Black people and Brown people, to opportunities for growth and wealth building, ultimately leading to a path of financial freedom, where she co founded the Jackson Ward Collective. And so hopefully y'all Google that down in Richmond, Virginia. If y'all are in Richmond, hopefully you already know about it. But let's just start off by telling us kind of where did the motivation, where did the inspiration for Jackson Ward Collective come from, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so this work actually started in 2019. So I have two co-founders, two other Black women that are amazing, Kelly Lemon and Melody Short. And we came to the same conclusion from different paths. So I was a very corporate background person. And with my work with 1717 Innovation Center, I was seeing that there were a lot of opportunities for the entrepreneur ecosystem here in Richmond. But nobody that was coming through was looking like me. And so for me, it was, are we not getting the information? Do we not know? Are we not being reached out to? Like, how is this happening? Kelly owns the only Black woman owned coffee shop in Richmond. And she is, if you're in this Richmond region, you probably know Kelly. She is a radio personality. She is a media personality, quite frankly, and a known entity here in Richmond. And so, and she's also a UVA grad, which University of Virginia is huge here. And so she talks a lot about, even with all of her access and all of her connections, she really struggled to open her coffee shop, which is called the Urban Hang Suite. Yes, let me go ahead and say it is named after Maxwell's album. So if there are questions, and she has all her trademarks. But she really struggled. And her view was, if I'm struggling and I have access to resources, like, what does that look like if you don't have the same network? And then Melody, my third co-founder, Melody has actually been working with Black businesses in various capacities for over 20 years. So whether it was when she started out working with Sony and helping mom and pop record shops figure out how to run their business, or later on when she was doing individualized business coaching for businesses in the area. And what she was seeing was a couple things. One, we don't know, right? We don't know what we don't know. But what she was also seeing was a lot of the organizations that are supporting Black businesses are not Black run. And so there is a cultural competency element that is important. So the three of us all kind of came together like, we need to do something. It started with, we need a Black incubator. And in February of 2020, we sat down and we mapped out this multi-year strategy that was about community, about access, about resources, and about programming, with a plan to launch with networking events in the fall of 2020. COVID happened. But more importantly, George Floyd's murder actually catapulted a number of things for us. One was we were all individually getting phone calls from people who said, I want to support Black businesses. How do I do it? And we very easily could have made a list. But if we had made that list, we would have been perpetuating the issue that we had already recognized, which is we would have been sending out a list of people that we knew and not giving access to the folks that we might not know about and we might not know their story. And so instead, actually, Wednesday is our 2-year anniversary of our launch.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's crazy. It's been 2 years. But we actually launched with our network of the collective. So Jackson Ward Collective was what we launched with, which provides community for Black business owners in the Richmond region. And what we do is we really focus on ensuring a lot of people know their product, know their service, but don't necessarily know how to run a business. And so we really focus on providing the tools and the access and the resources so that you can effectively run your business. So when those big opportunities come in, you are prepared from a business perspective. That is very much our focus. We are clearly Black woman led. But we are all also business owners ourselves. And so we're not just talking the talk, but we're walking this walk with folks. We connect, we do individualized business coaching through that. So everyone meets one-on-one at least once a quarter. We have access to financial resources to help offset some of the costs of getting started. And then we also provide what we call service partners, which is access to other Black-owned businesses across the country, quite frankly, that provide B2B services to businesses. So maybe that's your marketing team, your brand, your graphics, your accountants, your CPAs, your lawyers, realtors, insurance, like literally anything you need. We have a network that we are constantly growing and cultivating to circulate the dollar in the Black community, but also to provide access to resources. Because most people come to us and are like, I don't know where to start. Can you just tell me where to start? We became a nonprofit earlier this year. And so we are officially the JWC Foundation. So in addition to our collective, we also offer a 12-week course, Community Business Academy, that teaches people the true fundamentals of running a business. And then our third flagship is our conference, which we just launched in August for the first time, Black Street, which is intended to be a national conference for Black business owners that are non-tech business owners that want to connect, network, and get resources to help them grow their businesses and continue to grow.
Now, I think it's a really good point that you made, because I know a bunch of people, if you watch anything, if you're on social media in any form and people are like, how to build wealth, go out there, get your LLC. They ain't telling you, one, how to file it, where to file it.
LLC Twitter, I cannot.
And what are some of those? Somebody out there has a concept, a thought. They're like, all right, maybe I need to jump on this business bandwagon. What are some of the mistakes that people make when they're getting started, or things that they need to be aware of if they say, all right, September is the month, or by the end of 2022, I'm going to make something happen? What are some of those things that you see that are probably repetitious with the businesses that you're encountering?
The first thing we always ask everyone is, do you have an A team? And that is something that Melody has coined. I probably need to call my IP attorney and have her trademark that too while she's trademarking some other stuff. But what we define as your A team is, do you have an accountant or CPA? Do you have a lawyer? And do you have a banker? So often we want to get started and we're like, all right, I filed an LLC. Well, why did you choose that entity structure? There are multiple entity structures, and LLC is just one legal entity structure. So have you sat down with an attorney that can advise you on what the proper structure is for your business? And a lot of times we think about what that business is, like the idea that we just came up with, but we're not planning for the long term. And so you want to build for the future because things are going to evolve. The reality of owning a business is that wherever you started is going to look different in 6 months, is going to look different in 12 months. And so you really want to build for the long term, not just for the right now. When you sit down with an attorney, those are the things they're going to ask you. When you sit down with a CPA, that's the type of question they're going to ask you. Okay, what are your plans? What do you think your income will look like? Where do you get to? You also see a lot of people on the socials, if you would,
Mhm.
talking about, well, you should file as an S corp. Maybe, right? An S corp is simply a tax designation, but you need to consult with your CPA to understand your particular situation. It might not make sense for you until a certain point. Some accountants will say, well, that only makes sense when you are consistently bringing in X amount of income, but that's because they know your particular situation. A banker is also really important. We live in the world of online everything. I am guilty of it. I do not want to talk to people like, let me just log in. But in business banking, you have to set up a separate business account. You do not ever want to commingle your funds, even if you are initially bankrolling it out of your savings account or whatever. You need to transfer that money into a business account for those expenses, track them, track your receipts, all of those things separately. The reason why you want to have a banker and have a relationship with a banker is when you're setting up that initial account, like think literally go old school, go in the bank, meet with somebody, have a conversation with them. They're going to ask you questions about your business, about your intent in your business. One, to ensure that they're putting you in the right product, but also you want to cultivate that relationship because over time, what's going to happen is maybe you have a business model. A lot of service-based business models don't need capital necessarily, but there's going to come a time when you need different products and you want your banker to be able to guide and give you access to the best products, the best rates, and that comes from relationship. And relationship, just like anything else, comes from not just telling them when things are going great, but like, hey, we're actually making a pivot. I'm thinking about this. I'd love to see like how the products might change or what's available. And if you do need funding, you want them to be able to advocate for you within the bank. It's also why it's very valuable to have a more local bank when you're banking with a business bank. But those are all like literally the first three things because people will be like, I signed up, I set up an LLC, they went to the state corporation commission. I'm like, cool. Have you talked to anybody? So like start with those three places. But then the next thing is you've got to understand the requirements of your locality. And so do you need to have a business license? So here in Richmond is a little bit different from like Northern Virginia. Central Virginia is set up where the city is a separate entity from the county. So we don't sit within a county, but there are counties surrounding Richmond. Well, if you are based in Richmond, you need a City of Richmond business license. But if you are based in, let's say, Henrico County, and you do business in the City of Richmond, you need a license in Henrico and you need a license in the City of Richmond for the portion of your work that you do in the city. Why does that matter? You pay taxes. And so people don't necessarily understand that. And in some localities, it's about as clear as mud. So I get why people don't understand it. But you still have to ask the questions and understand the resources of who can answer them for you.
Now, that's a really good point in terms of licensing and just simply the ability to do business where you want to do business. If you are setting up a restaurant, people are coming to you, probably don't have to deal with that as much. But if you are, a food truck and you're zooming around doing whatever,
Mhm.
a traveling artist or a traveling beautician or whatever that might be very different. What are some resources that people can go to in order to figure some of these things out? Like you said, it may or may not be as clear, but at least where they can start to do a little bit of research and figure out, okay, wait, maybe I'm here, maybe I'm there, or does this even apply to me, kind of thing.
Yeah. So the Small Business Administration has SBDC centers. I always forget what SBDC stands for. I'm terrible at it. But if you look up on Small Business Administration or Google SBDC, these are federally funded resources. They are free to you that you can go to and say, I'm starting a business. I need help. They may help you with a business plan. And I want to pause for a second on that. Historically, people say, oh, if I need money from the bank, I have to create this complicated business plan and I do this. Well, business plans have evolved quite a bit. They look more like pitch decks now, more than anything. But additionally, you might not need a super comprehensive business plan depending on what your business is. And so SBDCs can actually sit with you and walk through what you're doing and review it and give you feedback. They can even, depending on what the expertise is in their office, sometimes they can even give you feedback on what your financial outlook looks like and how you would show up to a potential funder. And so that's really helpful, particularly if you think you're going to go to the bank for funding or loan or anything like that. There's so much creative funding out there now that's more character based instead of credit based. And so they can really help you with a lot of things. We send people to SBDC all the time, but when we send them, we are giving them guidance of when you go, ask about this based on where you are right now. But that's a great starting point. Another good starting point, and almost everyone has a SWAM certification office that's state run or city run. Like, talk to them, meet with them. Those are more procurement opportunities. But where I see people missing opportunities is if you are in hospitality in particular, think about state funded universities in your area. They actually, a lot of times, will have a requirement or target around supplier diversity. And what we don't typically think about, because we think about traditional procurement, is if you're SWAM certified in your area and you're a restaurant or a food truck and they need lunch provided, them going to you for a team lunch is actually helping meet their supplier diversity goals, but you need to be SWAM certified. And that process is different in every state, but it's usually like filling out a form and submitting it and validating that you are woman and or minority owned, right? And then that opens up a world of opportunities for you. And so, like, start with some of those offices in your area that work with businesses and go in and meet with them and just ask questions. I think even our office, like our local office, it can be a little challenging at times. They will admit that themselves, and I've had this conversation with them. But if you go in and build a relationship and just say, I'm a little lost and I just need some help, they will work with you. They will share that information. We just get scared to ask it. And sometimes we end up being the blind leading the blind, trying to tell, well, I did this and I tried that. But just go straight to the offices. There's also an organization, a national organization called SCORE, SCORE, and they have them in a lot of cities. And that's another place. All of these are free resources. SCORE has workshops, like they have online programming that you can just go and pull down. So those are some places that you can start that don't cost you a thing, that you can get information and feedback from each of those organizations.
No, I love the SWAM certification because definitely, we've already been held back more than likely, especially if you're a Black woman. We're fighting in terms of pay equity. We are fighting in terms of everything from loan issues and so forth. And so if there are free certifications that are out there, but also ways that we can get preference where we haven't had that preference before, what does that certification process look like? How long does it last? Is it every single industry? So it doesn't matter what you do. Is it that you should then, of course, get certified? So it doesn't matter if you are cooking or if you are cleaning carpets. Should every single organization get certified?
I would say if you think there is the slightest chance in the world that you will be working with some kind of government agency, I would go ahead and do it. Like, there's literally nothing for you. It doesn't cost anything. You fill out, at least in Virginia, you fill out an application online. Um, how long does it take? I don't know. Like, it was fill out everything. The application took a little bit of time. You needed to have all your paperwork. You needed to have your taxpayer ID number. I forgot to mention that. Like, you can't just go get an LLC. You have to get a federal ID, employer identification number. Like, you got to put something, and you can't even open a bank account if you don't have an EIN. So, like, there are some steps, right? But once you have everything in place, it's really a matter of taking, I don't know, an hour of your time to fill out the paperwork. Now, it felt like a black box. Like, I filled it out, it went in on the line, it went somewhere, and then it came back. I got a letter. It was like, you've been SWAM certified. It didn't have an expiration date on it. Nothing else happened, right? I was like, okay, cool. Have I leveraged it personally? No. But is it helpful that I have it? Yes, because if I need it, it's there. Now, I do want to, and this is like my corporate background kicking in. If you are targeting to work with larger corporations, SWAM may not be enough. And I think it's important for us to know that. So in a lot of states, they don't validate that you are who you say you are, meaning that you truly are Black owned, Hispanic owned, woman owned, right? And so veteran owned even falls under that in some states. And so some corporations will require you to go through a certification that does do the validation. And those typically cost at least a couple of $100, and they have an ongoing membership fee. So something like WeBank, which I think is like WBENC, which is women focused, or NMSDC, National Minority Supplier Diversity Council, and they have chapters all over the country. That's going to cost you a little bit more. It's going to be more of an investment, but there are large corporations that require that as a minimum versus SWAM, because in those organizations, they're actually going to come and check and make sure it wasn't some white male who put his wife on there, and that's why they are woman owned, right? And so just be mindful, if that is your goal and your target to get into larger corporations, you might have to make a bigger investment.
And that's probably even part of the business plan. So you start here.
Yep.
But, you may not be at a point where you can supply 800 gifts to an organization today. Yeah. Don't mess up and only deliver 100. And I'll be sitting there like, I ain't get my.
People will be mad. And when I worked in corporate, like, I used to have this argument with our executives all the time, because they would want to do all this work with startups, and we'd be piloting. And then somebody else, another department, would hear about it, and they'd be like, "Oh, I want in." And I'm like, "It's 5 people that work there. Like, it's 20,000 of y'all. No, you can't do that." And we can't get so excited about an opportunity that we shoot ourselves in the foot, because you kind of only got one shot, right? Like, that it's that first impression and that one shot. And so the other thing is, it's really important to be crisp on who and what you are, and what you do and what you don't do. And that's something that we actually did even as an organization in setting up who we are and what we did. We were very clear, and we revisit it every year. We got really clear and really crisp on, we do this, we don't do this. We have some stuff we want to do, but we have determined that it's a not now, and it's probably not for another 4 years, right? And we're really clear on that. We've been talking to partners this year. Since May, the conversation has been, that's really interesting. Can we pick that up in Q2 23? We're full right now. And we have to be willing to have those boundaries and say that, because otherwise you have this great idea and people will come in and try to tell you what you should be doing with your business and with your idea. And if you aren't crisp and clear on that, then you're just, oh, that's cool. Oh, I'll do that too. And then you're all over the place and you're not doing one or two things really well. You're doing five things, kind of mediocre.
I think that's a really good even transition point too, because somebody probably has already made that mistake and now they are stretched thin. Nothing is going right. They ain't making a lot of money doing any of these things. And so they're trying to figure out, should I quit? Should I put some more money? Should I pull some more money from my savings? Hopefully y'all ain't pulling money from y'all 401k plans. But wherever you pull it, should I ask my mama for another piece of something that she got in the back? How do people, one, find resources if they're at that point of maybe this is not working out? Or when do they know, all right, this probably ain't gonna be a viable business?
So there's a couple things. Let's be honest, life is largely about gut. And we instinctively know when like something's not right or something's not fitting. Now we're going to do our whole like, let me ask a couple of people that I really trust, right? And it's very important, even if you don't have a formalized board, depending on your entity structure, it's really important to have advisors that you can bounce things off, that will be honest with you, that will be direct with you, and that will be firm with you, even when you don't want to hear it, right? It's not that they're pushing. It's not that they think that it's their business, but you want to be able to trust their business mind and their perspective that they bring to the table and share with them the challenges. We, especially as a Black community, we don't like to share stuff. I know even in our program that we do, the Community Business Academy, we do an info session, and it's mandatory. You can't apply unless you do the info session. The info session, I ask people to introduce themselves and tell what their business idea is. And every time the faces look like this. Right. Like, I'm not telling my idea, but here's the thing. It's yours. And even if somebody were to come in and be like, I like that idea, I'm going to do it. Guess what? They're not you. And so they can't duplicate what you do, and they can't bring to the table what you bring to the table. So we've got to get out of this. I got to hold it. I can't share it, because there's more than enough to go around. But also, entrepreneurship is lonely. And if you are just trying to go it alone, you're going to miss the beauty of collaboration. You're going to miss the beauty of understanding other people's perspectives and getting ideas, because maybe it's a slight tweak to what you've been doing. That's the thing that is going to be your tipping point. It could be something super simple like that. Or it could be you meet somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, we should totally work together or collaborate. And all of a sudden, it's not that you were on the wrong path. It was that you needed a partner. And so I think it's important to have those conversations, to have those dialogues, and to find those advisors and those people you trust. And sometimes those advisors may be people, let's say you were doing this as a side hustle, you left your 9 to 5, you did this full time. It could be somebody from your old 9 to 5 who you really trust. And you've built a relationship. So like, you don't forego the mentors that you've had all along. You bring at the right times, you bring them along. I truly believe that relationships are seasonal. And so some of them are forever, but some of them are not. But know what those are that are sticking around and be able to kind of make those calls. But follow your gut. If your gut is like, I don't want to do this, don't do it. Stop. It's okay to stop. It's okay to stop. It's okay to rebrand. It's okay to reintroduce. Let me reintroduce myself. I am Rasheeda. I now do X, Y, or Z. Yes. Don't be scared.
Now, I think that's a good point too, because sometimes there are these resources to help new businesses get started. But if you decide, we are selling X, but nobody buys that, you selling hamburgers. I think I had this conversation with somebody last weekend. You have sourced the best beef in the world, and everybody come in and order the pizza. And so you are, Rosalind's Burger Shop. You like, why y'all don't like these burgers?
But I like the pizza.
Exactly. So,
but you can still do both.
That pivot.
You can pivot or you can still do both. So real situation. My grandparents live in Akron, Ohio. There is this place in Akron I go every time called Rasheeda's Pizza. They have the worst pizza I have ever had. They have the best fried chicken I have ever had in my life. And for well over 20 years, I do not hit Akron without going to Rasheeda's for chicken.
I'm like, I want some of this chicken.
But like, they're still the pizza place, but everybody comes out of there with these big boxes. And I'm like,
their specialty. Yeah.
That's just what, I don't know why. Apparently they might still sell pizza sometimes, but like nobody goes in there for pizza, and it's been their name. I looked it up like for 70 years.
So that's a point that you don't have to revamp, change everything. You could just say it's fine. People like what they like. We're gonna keep saying we sell burgers and let these people come in here and get chicken or whatever that might be, and just be great at what people know us for. Now, would that change the marketing and so forth, or is there a team that can help and say, how do you make sure people know, even though the sign says this, we do this?
You work with your team. So, and we're some of this stuff we're learning a little bit as we go, right? So when we think about branding and marketing, a lot of times people are like, I need a logo. But your logo is an output of your brand. Your brand is you, first and foremost. Most people are buying into the person more than the product, and we forget that. But you're also buying into that presence, right? What is it that you offer? What is the customer experience that you want to have? What is the image that you want to exude? I literally just had this conversation at my daughter's swim lessons like 2 hours ago with somebody. She was like, I'm doing my rebrand because I'm going out full time on my own now, and I need my brand to reflect the level of client that I am working with and the price point that I'm charging, right? And so she's like, I need everything elevated. It has to all reflect. And then we jump into like, let me push stuff on social. We have a social media manager. Social is for people in helping. It's not a social media person singular. It is the person who's doing the graphics. It is the person who's thinking about the strategy. It's the person who's writing the captions and figuring out the best time to post and looking at all of the, the response times and what is going to be the most impactful. Social alone is its own team. And we so often want it to be like one thing here and one thing here. But what all that means is you're also making a significant investment. And so it's worth it when you're starting to spend time, maybe just having a conversation with some folks to help understand it until you run out of the capacity to do it yourself and you can afford to have somebody else take it on. And I think so often we want to shortchange paths. Take your time and go the long road. You've got to go the long road because in the end, the investment that you make in that is going to pay off.
Now, that was a good point about hiring folks. And I feel like sometimes people are like, I got to hire everybody. Or, as Black women, because we are special, we like, I'm doing everything. I am the attorney, the CPA, I am the cleaner, the sourcer, the marketer. I am everything. I am Superwoman. Hear me, Ru.
One of my brands is Killing Superwoman, right? No.
So that is definitely, and I ain't even gonna lie, because I have definitely been there where I'm like, I got it. No, don't touch it. I got it. Now, how do you know when to? Because one, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but like, you got to find that amount of money. So when do you start hiring people and being like, all right, I can't afford to hire everybody, but I also can't afford to do it all myself either.
Run the numbers. I mean, we talk. We find Wonder Woman in just a minute. Not right now. I can't find Wonder Woman. Okay, thank you. I will find her for you later. This is me trying not to be Superwoman, but being Mama. But you got to run the numbers. Like, we're a group that thinks about money and focuses on numbers. Run the numbers and figure out, my camera is like refocusing itself. Um,
I was like,
but
oh my goodness.
figure out what the cost. I always say, because you're like, can I see her? And I'm like, can you see? There we go. How? But count the cost. So I thought I couldn't afford an assistant until I hired one. And it wasn't full time. And I posted it somewhere on my public social media page, and I'll try to find it and like type it in the comments for later. But when I ran the calculation of how much time it was taking her to go through my emails and handle my calendar and do all those things versus what my hourly rate was, oh, I could more. It cost me like 2 hours of my time a month to hire somebody to do it. And so you have to start to count the cost. And so often we think about costs. It's true, it's a finite thing, right? There's a finite amount of money, but so often we think about costs from the perspective of how much is this check I'm stroking. But what we forget to calculate is, what is my time worth? And is that where I want to spend my time? Is that the best use of my time? Or can I outsource that and open myself up for the opportunity to build more business, to work on, not in, my business more, to, get more clients or revamp some things? Like, how am I freeing up my time? You think about it, it's easy for us to think about it at home, right? We're quick to be like, yes, I'll hire a cleaning service. Yes, I'd love to hire a chef. We will do those things really quick. Why? Because I don't want to spend my whole Saturday doing that. So I will pay you to come in and handle that. And it is 100% worth it. But we forget to do the same thing in our businesses. And then we wear ourselves completely out.
Now, I think that's a great thought in terms of, okay, we know before you get started, I don't care if you've never made a dollar, you need your attorney, you need your accountant, you need a banker. All right. And then who's the next person? Is it the social media? Is it the personal assistant? Is it, some other magical being that does something special? What does that team? So as we're adding on to the A team, I guess who's the B team?
Yeah. I would say as you grow, your next move, I personally think the next move is an assistant, right? Because it is helping clear out your time now and manage things that are not things you want to take on your plate. Now you can do a virtual, remote, like you can handle. My first assistant was my niece who was in college, and she was on summer break, and she is type A like me, and it worked really well, right? I've moved from that point, but that's where I started. But also I see the note, somebody said, like, I hired somebody to source leads. Yes. Right. Like, what is your business model? What is the thing that is taking a lot of your time that is not the best use of your time? So it's not a formula. It's not okay, you next hire this. It is, what is the thing that is going to give you the best impact by freeing up your time to do the core thing that you really want to spend your time doing? You don't have to hire a social media person. You can do it yourself. There's enough tools out there that you can do it yourself. You can schedule it in advance. I have a friend who does postpartum. She's a postpartum doula. And she, the first day of the month, she schedules all her posts for the month, and she's done. It takes her a couple hours, and she's like, I'm done. I'm out. But what she has done is attended a lot of free workshops that social media experts have hosted to learn stuff and to learn, okay, I need to do this. Like, my social media person taught us, we don't like to be the face of our organization. I know it sounds really weird, but we don't. We just like to do the work. And she fusses at us all the time and says, you got in your 9 squares on Instagram, at least one of those always has to be one of y'all or something talking about you as a unit or the organization. But you have to constantly reintroduce yourself to the audience so that when somebody goes on your homepage, you're there. I didn't know that. Why would I know that? I'm a lawyer. I don't know these things. And so, like, going to sessions and learning from people and taking in that information, apply what works, skip what doesn't.
And that's a great thing. Somebody said a lot of people hire virtual assistants from the Philippines.
Interesting.
They're usually U.S. educated, and the cost is as low as $8 an hour.
Wow.
I'm like, $8 an hour.
Wow.
That's still more than I made minimum wage my first job, though. So
now I feel like I'm dating myself. We're gonna talk about
I'm like, I'm struggling at that grocery store. Clothes. And that's a good point in terms of just knowing, but knowing resources. And so I think that's a good resource in knowing that you can outsource and where you can outsource. Are there other, especially national organizations? We named a few that people should say, it doesn't matter where you are. And if you're outside the United States, might apply. But are there other organizations that are within the United States that really serve on a federal level, that either for education, resources, grants, those kind of things that people should be looking into today?
Absolutely. So U.S. Black Chambers is another excellent. So Small Business Administration, there are the National Chamber, and then there is the Black Chamber of Commerce. All of those are wonderful resources. Black Chamber, I think, has like 3 grant programs live right this second. I get emails about them all the time that we share out with our network. But those are some great resources. There's also this really cool platform. It's newer. It's called iBarter Black. And we recently connected with them. It's a startup, and I believe she's based out of DC. But what they do is, it is a platform, and you pay like, I don't know. You pay some amount a month. It's not a 3-figure amount. I know that much. But you pay an amount a month. You're plugged into this platform of other Black business owners, and you have something to offer, and you have something that you're looking for. So the way that she described it, which I loved how she described it, I've been following them for a while, was like, it's essentially, if you're going to pay a lawyer on the low side, right, $200 something an hour, but there's somebody in this platform that you're paying, I don't know, $90 a month. I'm making up numbers. And you get access to a lawyer and an accountant and a graphics person, and you barter your services, right? It's a really unique way of building your network and getting access to other folks while still supporting the Black community, if that's something that is important to you. And I love that concept. Like, we're exploring some things because I love that concept of getting exposure, especially when you're starting out. We often don't think about bartering, which is very different. And this point is really important because we are very big on paying people for the services and paying the cost that they charge. That is something that's very important. Anybody that's a service partner of ours, we never ask them to discount their services, and that's on purpose. The idea of bartering is less about a discounting of service and more about, I need something that you have, you need something that I have, so let's help each other out, which is a unique way to help you minimize your starting cost when you're at that point. When you get to the point that you can stroke that check, you should be stroking that check.
But I think that's huge too, because especially if you are just getting started on, I don't know about y'all. Y'all might come from a whole bunch of money. So maybe y'all got a bunch of money. I don't know. But if you don't have a lot of money, but you can create community, and sometimes you just need a little something. Maybe you just need to call the attorney and ask them 2 questions. And they like, clock started when you said, good morning, how you doing?
Right.
That was a quarter of an hour. And I'm going to go ahead and invoice you, even if you say, actually, I got to call you back. They like, but you still going to get an invoice for that.
It's the difference between being transactional and being relational. And I have this conversation all the time. So like, I might have a conversation with somebody and I might give them a whole bunch of resources and a whole bunch of information, but I know that they're likely to come back, or if they need something else, they'll think of us first. And maybe that next time they come back, that's a paying engagement, right? That's a relation. You start to think about things from a relational standpoint of creating stickiness and getting people to come back. If I call you for a 10-minute question and I get a bill, I am absolutely not thinking about you when I need some real work done.
An hour worth. You like, I ain't got an hour worth now.
No. Because I'm a number. I'm not a client that you're building a relationship with.
But I think that's a part of business too. And you really just gave like some gems in terms of business, because I've definitely had people in there like, you want one question? Great. Let me tell you how much my rate would be. And then they call me back and be like, I got a question. I'm like, wait, now you want a free answer. You want a free answer. And so building that relationship, but I think as you're talking, there are so many different ways to build that relationship and build that community. And as you said, entrepreneurship can be lonely. I don't know about everyone else who's listening, but especially if you're looking at the people in your circle, the people in your family, maybe you come from an entrepreneurial family and you're like, oh, all of us, we went through the same thing. Great, different from my life. But if you don't, and you don't have that circle of people who are like trying to figure it out, they are trying to find the resources. They're trying to find people who specialize in helping people at their stage. I mean, I've talked to an attorney before and they were like, my hourly rate was $450. I was like, $400.
I'll be back later.
An hour? Like, really?
Yeah, that's why you're like, I'll come back to you later.
You must be real good, but I'm not good there. Yeah. And so if you're like, I'm trying to figure this out, I'm trying to find people at my level and I can't just necessarily use Google, or you want to work with people who look like you. And so you may have to find a community like you to really facilitate that. And I think that's, I got to look up this Barter Black. I'm going to see if I can get her on here.
Oh, you should. She came to I'm a Spelman grad and we have a Spell House Business Alliance. And she came and spoke, and she's fantastic. And we connected after that. But you should totally reach out to her.
Yes, because it's those resources and putting it all together. Because I think oftentimes the thing that's making your business stuck is your inability to find resources. Find capital is important. Like we know, so many of our businesses could be so big, so massive, so much more impactful, but it's simply the lack of resources in terms of capital. But sometimes it's just relationship.
Right.
Because it might be the fact that Rasheeda and she can ask somebody, hey, do y'all need trinkets for the holiday party? I know somebody who make trinkets, but yet you tried to call her last time for a 10-minute conversation. Or for
it's all so relational. Like as human beings, we are relational, but business is so relational, right? And it's people, think about it. Somebody posts something about their business venture and it shows up on your Facebook feed with somebody right? You're going to have an initial reaction. You're either going to be like, oh, that's cool. If I ever need that, I'm definitely reaching out to them. Or you might be like, oh, no, not them. Right? It's all relational. And people most often are buying from and investing in that first time, the person. Now, if I go and I have a really good experience, I'm going to keep coming back. If I go and I have a bad experience, I might give you another shot depending on our relationship. But then I'm not going to keep going if it's not solid. But how you got me the first time is from relationship, or there's something about the person that I'm drawn to and I want to connect with them. It might be their product. I just spent a lot of money on a purse last night because somebody that I value, their perspective, had liked a post on LinkedIn, and this woman is describing this new bag that's like all leather and it's the shape of the melanin chemistry molecule or whatever. And I was like, click, right? Like, and I don't know the creator of this product, but I know the person that introduced me to it. And I was like, well, if she's on it, I'm definitely, let me look closer. And then once I looked closer, it was like, oh yeah, I'm all in. It's all relationship.
And that's huge. And that takes us back to the Jackson Collective, because in terms of you bringing people together, so
Mm-hmm.
somebody is watching, they in Richmond, so cool, they can call you tomorrow. But if they not in Richmond,
Yeah.
can they work with you still?
So kind of. Our this is like that getting crisp part we talked about, right? Like as you iterate, you get real crisp on your work. For the individualized coaching, we specifically do that for people in the Richmond region. However, our Blackstreet brand is our national brand. So you can work with us through Blackstreet. If you go on our website right now, or if you go to Blackstreet Conference, and when I'm saying Blackstreet, it's without the A, so it's BLCK. If you go to blackstreetconference.com, you can actually see, you can get the replays from our conference. Our conference content was amazing. Our favorite Rich and Regular were our keynote speakers. They talked about cashing out. We had folks talking about succession planning. So Daphne Maxwell Reed, who everybody knows is the second Aunt Viv, but she and her husband actually live here in Richmond, and she came and spoke about succession planning and how they have iterated through that experience, and what that looks like. We have also had people. We had people really that had been there and done that, or as Kelly likes to say, been there and spent that, and were sharing their lessons. And so I encourage you to check out the replays, because I'm still listening to the replays and getting new gems out of it. And we are going to do the conference again next year. It'll be August 6th and 7th. So you can absolutely work with us in that way. Those are really the two ways. Everything else is very local. We will probably do some more national events over time. But right now, as I know you know, Rosalind, it's a lot of work to put on a conference. It's a whole lot of work. and what I would say about it is it's a lot of work and it's totally worthwhile. But the thing that was most special to us on the conference is that it was us. And when I say it was us, I mean the vibe, the feel, like it was like a family reunion and a business experience all in one. And and it was a very safe place. And that's what people were telling us. Like, I felt safe to ask my business questions and get information. And I got real takeaways that I could do from it. And so I definitely I would love to do it a few times a year, but I don't have the mental capacity to do it a few times a year. So y'all come to Richmond in August, because also Richmond is actually one of the very first Black Wall Streets in the country. There were over 30. And so the history that we have here is special. And 1 in 4 Black people in the United States can actually trace their roots back to Virginia. So we are all heavily connected to Virginia in one way or another. And we love to share this rich history with other folks.
And I love it. And if you haven't, I'm a big reader. So if y'all don't know, I do some book reviews. And so usually tell people about what I'm reading. But what is it? It's the Color of Money. Mercer.
Yeah.
What is it?
I forgot her last name. Yes.
I might be saying it wrong, but y'all Google it. And talks about Maggie Walker, who Black woman, owner of a Black bank. And so when we talk about the number of Black banks that exist, not as many today, unfortunately, but that is some of the history or rich history that sits within Richmond.
And not only that, Miss Maggie Walker owned a department store. She employed Black women, and they're talking about in the early 1900s.
And saved other Black banks.
Saved other Black banks. But this is actually my favorite fun fact about her. So the trolley car originated in Richmond. She and her husband led a boycott of the trolley car, and it was successful in completely shutting it down here. And so we have tracks here and there, but the trolley car never sustained in Richmond because of their activism work that they did And it's just, if you ever have an opportunity to come to Richmond, go check out Walking the Ward with Gary Flowers. I tell Gary all the time, I have to do his tour quarterly. I learn something new every single time, but it is a rich history.
Oh, I love it. So get on down, come on down. Shout out to Debt Free Dad. He said he's on CP time, but we family, so it's come on and watch it later. Get some of these good resources. Now, I know we're almost at the hour point, but one thing I always like to have people share here, we are helping Black women get to their financial independence. That looks different for everybody. Y'all ain't got to be sitting on, somebody porch with a rocket chair because I'm from Georgia. That's what,
I love it. I have a porch. I love a porch.
Maybe some lemonade, depending on how you like your stuff. What does financial independence look like for you, Rasheeda?
Honestly, financial independence looks like life right now. I control my time. I am able to do the things with my daughter. I have an 8-year-old. I have 3 girls. I have an 8-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 24-year-old. But especially with the 8-year-old, being able to pick her up from school, take her to activities, be present with my family, decide when I work and when I don't work. Running the foundation is a little different, but I firmly believe, and my co-founders as well, that the work that I'm doing is purpose work. And I like to be able to spend my time doing the things I care about most. And the things that I care about most, besides family and friends, are helping my community, particularly Black women, in reaching their goals. So whether that's about financial freedom, or whether that's about entrepreneurship, or nurturing and building our communities, I get to spend my days doing that in ways that do not drain me. And I'm building a life that I do not have to escape from.
I love it. That's financial independence.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you so much for Rasheeda. If y'all missed any of those, there were so many free 99. If y'all rich, don't worry about that. Don't worry about the free stuff. Go and pay your money to whoever.
Right check.
Yeah, if y'all got the money, don't even worry about this. Wasn't for you. But if you like free stuff, make sure y'all check out all these good resources. I'm gonna put a few in the notes. Take a few notes while we talk. I'm gonna put a few in the notes as well, so y'all can come back, give me a little bit, because I gotta walk my dog after this. But after that, I'm gonna put these resources in the notes, and hopefully you'll be with us next Monday at the same time for another great speaker. I'm excited about this speaker. For another great speaker to share the journey, to share some tips on your financial independence journey. So until then, have a wonderful night. Bye, everybody.